David had waited patiently for maybe 15 years since he was anointed as king, until he actually was appointed king. But now all Israel is united under King David, and he has established Jerusalem as his capital, that ancient city of God where Melchizedek had reigned as priest of the Most High God 1,000 years before. Again David gathered all the choice men of Israel, 30,000. And David arose and went with all the people who were with him from Baal Judah to bring up from there the ark of God, whose name is called by the name, the Lord of hosts, who dwells between the cherubim. So they set the ark of God on a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. And Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drove the new cart. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, accompanying the ark of God. And Ahio went before the ark. Then David and all the house of Israel played music before the Lord on all kinds of instruments of fir wood, on harps, on stringed instruments, on tambourines, on sistrums, and on cymbals. And when they came to Nachon's threshing floor, Uzzah put out his hand to the ark of God, and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled. Then the anger of the Lord was aroused against Uzzah, and God struck him there for his error, and he died there by the ark of God. And David became angry because of the Lord's outbreak against Uzzah, and he called the name of the place Perez Uzzah to this day. David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, "How can the ark of the Lord come to me?" So David would not move the ark of the Lord with him into the city of David, but David took it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his household. Now it was told King David, saying, "The Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him, because of the ark of God." So David went and brought up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with gladness. And so it was, when those bearing the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, that he sacrificed oxen and fatted sheep. Then David danced before the Lord with all his might, and David was wearing a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of trumpet. Now as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and whirling before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. So they brought the ark of the Lord and set it in its place in the midst of the tabernacle that David had erected for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. And when David had finished offering burnt offerings and peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of hosts. Then he distributed among all the people, among the whole multitude of Israel, both the women and the men, to every one a loaf of bread, a piece of meat, and a cake of raisins. So all the people departed, every one to his house. Then David returned to bless his household. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious was the king of Israel today, uncovering himself today in the eyes of the maids of his servants, as one of the base fellows shamelessly uncovers himself." So David said to Michal, "It was before the Lord, who chose me instead of your father and all his house, to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore I will play music before the Lord, and I will be even more undignified than this, and will be humble in my own sight. But as for the maidservants of whom you have spoken, by them I will be held in honour." Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we share together this next episode in the life of David. He is established as king, but the Lord is so important to him that it is a priority for him to turn the whole nation towards worshipping the Lord and honouring the Lord. And the way he sees to do that is to bring the Ark of the Covenant into his new capital city, the capital city for the whole nation. Remember, Jerusalem was on the border between Judah and Benjamin. Just as when Australia became a federation, they sought the Australian Capital Territory somewhere between Sydney and Melbourne, but independent of them both. While David came from Judah, his city was the city of the whole nation. Now he seeks to bring the Ark of the Covenant to the national capital. Early in the time of Samuel, the evil priests, the sons of Eli, had taken the Ark into battle against the Philistines, and the Philistines won that battle and captured the Ark. But God brought judgment on the Philistines, and so they returned the Ark of the Covenant on a cart, and it had really been in transit since that time, staying at one place and then another. Saul had repressed the priests of the Lord. The whole host of them had been killed. But now David is king, and David will promote the worship of God, because the Lord is the Lord of hosts. He dwells between the cherubim, those golden angels that were on the lid of the Ark of the Covenant. And so they needed a tabernacle for the Ark, that God might be with them. And bringing the Ark into Jerusalem meant that God would be in the centre of the nation. The Ark had been in the house of Abinadab. So, with great music and fanfare, they put the Ark on a cart and set off to bring it to Jerusalem. But when the ox stumbles, Uzzah reaches out his hand to steady the Ark of God, and the Lord strikes him dead, because only the Levites may handle the Ark. This frightens David. The procession of joy turns to mourning, and so he parks the Ark of the Covenant in the house of Obed-Edom. But the Lord blesses Obed-Edom and his household in the 3 months that it is there, and so David is encouraged again to bring the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. This time it is carried by the Levites. And there are sacrifices of oxen and fatted sheep, as David seeks the mercy of the Lord. David doesn't come in his glory. He wears a simple white robe, a linen ephod. As he comes into the city, his first wife, his chief wife, Michal, looks out at the window and sees her husband leaping and dancing, celebrating before the Lord. Behaviour most unbecoming for a king. For while she had loved David as a younger woman, so much bitterness had passed in her life, and she didn't understand or share David's love for the Lord. Consequently, the Lord did not bless her life. Though she lived with privilege and luxury, she remained barren. The only way you get joy of the Lord is by developing your personal relationship with him. That's learning about him in the scriptures, but also singing praises to him, praying to him, worshipping him, glorifying him, meditating upon him, and remaining humble before him. And this is what David had learned to do. So there is a great celebration among the people, and the king gives gifts to everyone, men and women, bread, meat, raisins, so that everyone can rejoice that day, and their thoughts are turned back to the Ark of the Covenant, something many of them had not thought about for a long time. This was a newly established city. It had been a Jebusite city, now it is David's city. It was filling up with people representing all the tribes, and David is putting the Lord God in the centre of the action.